Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's January 27th. It's a Saturday. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about, like a day in my life of what I go through in a day. And then I also thought it would be a good time, and maybe I can get your feedback on this, of why are the young people in this country so willing to give up their rights that people fought for. So stay tuned. So welcome back. If you don't know it already, my name is Eric. And I've been asked about, what's a typical day like for you? You know, when it comes to home life, work life, and your balancing act of how you balance everything. It's not easy being me, I can tell you that, folks. But let's start with a basic general day for me. I'm usually up by 4:30. More like 4, but 4:30. Uh, I enjoy that time. It's a quiet time in the house. It's just me and the dogs. Uh, we come to my back office, which is here, and the first thing I do is I get my coffee going, let the dogs out, and with a fresh cup of coffee, I come back here and I try to think up, I look at the prior day's video comments, and with a combination of that and something I may have thought of yesterday or the day before, I come up with topics that I think would be important to all of us, not just me. And some topics that I pick has nothing to do with me, but more so you, that I think you should be aware of. But from there, I go down to the shop, usually around 6:30, 7 o'clock. Now, if you remember when I first started these videos, I would get up at 4 and be down to the shop by quarter to 5. And we did the videos down there, right? Uh, but I enjoy doing the morning video here better than I do down there. There's less distractions, right? And from there, I plan out the day of what we have on our table. Now, yesterday we ran into an issue we have a wood stove in the shop. It's out in the bays. And for some reason we were getting a lot of smoke from somewhere. So Claude started looking and he found a couple holes in the pipe where it started to rust through. And they do. After a while used, you need to replace them. So he was trying to figure out how to hobcob stuff together, And I said, nope. Figure out what we need, all brand new from the stove to the chimney, and let's go. So we end up going into town, and we got for under $100, we got all the parts we needed, okay? And while we were in town, it's payday. It was Friday for Claude, so we swung over to the bank where he was able to deposit his money into his checking account, and I deposited some money into my checking account because I have land taxes coming up, which is a little over $3,000 for the 4 out of 5 properties that I own. From there, we got back and we got the stove all fixed up, all fired up, and that solved that issue. The day before, we had a guy drop off and you guys will see the video, but he took one of the 3-point, or not 3-point, but it's a post hole digger, but it's a earth auger type thing. It's handheld, gas operated. And the guy had a gas-powered ice auger, and I guess the engine went up in it. So he had this earth-moving auger, I guess is the name of it, and he was trying to marry the two of them together, the good engine with a shaft, to the ice auger. And he had used one of those real thin walled spark plug removers, the tools that you can get like in a kit with your four-wheeler or side-by-side or skidoo that you just slide in, you got a turnbuckle. Well, you use that, and it was way too light, and it ripped it right out in a hurry. I mean, there's no way it could have worked. So we wanted to know if there was something we could do to fabricate. Now, that's the other aspect of our shop, is that we do a lot of fabricating. And that might be something, if you have your own shop, that you may want to look at, is we do a lot of welding, whether it's putting stuff back together for customers or fabricating something that will work. I mean, this year, remember, we got a guy had a pull behind sickle mower with a hay vine, and one of the shoes he had lost, but we could take the pattern from the one shoe that was on the other side and make him up a brand new shoe so that it keeps the knives out of the ground so it cuts the hay. We're constantly welding on something. If it's not for somebody else, it's fabricating something that I need on the farm. So that's just one thing you might want to look at. So we were monkeying with that. Right now, Claude works half days, because if the work's not here, then, because he's already on Social Security, he's retired basically, but he supplements his income working with me. So he takes, usually during the winter months, if things slow down, he'll go to half pay, so a half day versus a full day. And so he left at noon. I did the short video on looking for your input, and from there went up, got my tractor, got a round bale, a silage bale, and took it up to the I call them the babies, but they're 57 head total, and we got a main group of mama cows that have been on the farm for years. And then we've got a group of heifers that will be having their calves for the first time this year that were raised on the farm. We have, I think, around 12 steers that all were raised on the farm. And there's one bull that we steered that wasn't on the farm. I give $900 for him for breeding last year. We call him Harry. And we've got a couple of young bulls. But when you saw with the firearm that I carry I carry that for a reason. And the reason is because I've had problems in the past. And the problems that I have when you're working with cattle, okay? Beef cattle are an animal all in itself. When I was milking cows, we always had the Holstein with the occasional Jersey, okay? And they're pretty mild-tempered. Now, we used to have problems every so often with a bull when we buy a bull and put it in with our milk cows, but for the most part, all of them, you're working with them twice a day. You're handling them from a calf to, a milk cow. Whereas the beef cows, I go up once a day. They know me. They know I'm the one that feeds them, gives them grain, their hay, and water. But you don't work with them as much as you would, and they're more skittish. Now, even Claude, because Claude doesn't go up too often anymore, but if he goes up with me, I've seen him bolt and take off and disappear. Because if they don't know somebody, they will not hang around. But the reason I carry a sidearm was we've had instances where bulls would get to fighting or big steers would get to fighting. And when I say fighting, putting their head up against each other and pushing, trying to get the pecking order sometimes. Or, it's like family. If you're around each other all the time, from time to time, something's going to flare up. It's going to piss you off, and you're not going to be happy about it. So, and I have no qualms about that. It's when they get to being like that, and they don't realize that I'm close by, and they can run you over, or you can get caught in the middle if you're not paying attention. And I know, like, the ones that are 1,200, 1,300 pounds, I raise those from calves. I call them the good boys. Sparky is probably the biggest of the bunch. Then I got Junior. But I know that, because I steered them, that I know that I don't have to fear them because I've raised them since they were calves. And I've been around them their whole life. So they know me. But sometimes when they get to pushing and shoving, they don't realize that you might be in the middle. They would never be aggressive towards me, but when they're aggressive towards each other, they get to pushing and shoving, and I've been pushed into, the walls up there in the building. Like yesterday when I was graining them, and I try to get the grain out before they show up, because if not, then, I've got around 35, 40 head that are converging on you with a 5-gallon pail, and it's red, and they know it's grain, and they're so used to just, slamming in there to get it, and you get squeezed. And that even happened yesterday with graining them. But I never used to carry a sidearm all the years I farmed it until last year. Last year I had one, and we named her Hamburger. Now, she looked like she was a little bit of everything, all right? She was part Angus, part Jersey, part something else, but there was something about her that I could be around and handling her, like when I'm giving her grain or hay or something like that. But if I was just out there in the pasture doing something, you could see her eyes would change, her ears would go back, and she would become very aggressive. And she put me to the ground more than once. And the last time she did it, the only reason she gave up is I played dead. So working with cattle isn't, all fun and games either. And Claude said, you need to carry a weapon with you. Carry a rifle with you. If she does that again, just shoot her, and we'll put her in the Hamburger. That's why she got nicknamed Hamburger. So I started carrying a pistol just for that purpose. It's a deterrent. And I've had to use it with the bulls last year. Because before we got them steered, they were starting to get really testy. And I remember the one time I got caught in the middle of them. I was graining them, and somehow they got to fighting 3 or 4 of them, and I end up in the middle. And what I do first is I pull my sidearm out, okay? It's loaded when I go into the field. The minute I get ready to go into the field, I put a bullet into the chamber. When I was out in the field with them, I give them a warning shot first. And that is, I will pick a spot that has a good backdrop so that I'm not shooting at houses and everything else. And I will pull up and I will shoot. That loud bang will usually disperse them. if that didn't work, then we would have had more beef than we could handle. That's because you have to be safe, and there's no other way. There's no protection out there when you're working with your animals. So when I'm all done doing the animals, I come back to the house, let the dogs out to go do their business quick, and change boots, because I put my rubber boots on when I'm up with the cows, and I put my leather boots back on if I'm going to the shop. So I put my other boots back on, and then I drive 40 minutes away to the hospital to visit my wife. She's been back inpatient now for almost 4 months, and everybody is still unsure of what's going to be the outcome. I just take it day by day, and that's all you can do. I mean, I don't want to say I'm used to it, but after 23 years of marriage and this being an issue quite a few times throughout that 23 years, I've kind of become accustomed to having her here and then not here, and then having her here and not here. But I'll take the 40-minute drive over, and they have visitation is only from 3 to 5. So the longest she's lasted as far as a conversation with me is usually typically around 15-20 minutes. And then she wants me to leave so that she can go lay down. And so then I drive 40 minutes back to the house, and by that point it's usually right around 4:30, 4:45. So I get into the house, I strip down, put on sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and put on dinner, whatever that happens to be. Last night we were cooking pork chops, so I put the pork chops on at 5. And I had homemade macaroni and cheese, so I put that in, and to have it ready at 6. We eat at 6. And with me, whatever I eat, the dogs get their own plate. They're spoiled rotten. But they'll lay there and be good the whole time I'm eating, because they know that they're going to get their own plate. So once we're done with dinner, I do up the dishes and so forth. And then I'll sit down and I'll watch TV for an hour to 2 hours. But normally by 8:30, I've had enough for the day. So I hop right into bed and say my prayers and back at it again the following morning. But that's a typical day for me. It is what it is, right? But that's part of my day, is that I enjoy working with the cows and being around the cows and calves. And I enjoy time with my little dogs, Shelby and Samantha. So part 2 of this video this morning is, maybe you can give me some hints of why young people are so willing to give up their rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom, the Second Amendment, to carry and to have a firearm. Why is the next generation and the one after that so willing to back away from it and allow someone to take those rights from them? My generation, we came from, and I even have family members that are way younger than I am that have served. But all the people that died over the years to make sure that we had all those rights and they stayed intact. And yet what I'm watching is a constant erosion of, because the younger generation don't seem to care that much as I do about the freedom to speak freely, that to have your say, to carry a firearm safely. I happened to be listening to the radio on the way back from the hospital yesterday, and this is what kind of got me thinking, oh God, Eric's thinking, right? But it was the female athlete. She was, excuse me, a swimmer. And she was talking about how a lot of the female athletes that are part of the group that are swimmers, okay? On the surface, if you asked any one of those groups about having a guy, however he identifies, compete with them directly, would tell you they have no problem. But in private, they do have problems, and they should have problems. I have problems. We work so hard to give everybody the rights that they want, but it's so that the rights that are good, but they don't infringe on somebody else, and they don't go against what we believe in, right? And the narrator was asking this one woman that was speaking out, I can't remember her name, but she came in second place because a man was allowed to compete directly with her, and men and women are built differently. We all know that, okay? But he beat her, in a swim match competition. And he asked her, he said that, why aren't a lot of you speaking out? And the answer, which kind of shocked me in a way, but then not really, is they're all afraid of the mob mentality. What is the mob mentality? All right. As far as I'm concerned, you have bullies. Like back when we were in school, we always had a bully. And I think every school, every grade, all that, you had your bullies, okay? And one way or another, they were trying to take away something that you had every right to do. But with me, I'm like, where does this mob mentality come from? Who is behind a lot of this crap? And why is it that you don't have the feds involved? Because as far as I'm concerned, if you have a mob that's going against a person or a group of people just because they have different beliefs, you could get arrested for that if you were infringing on their rights. And she was saying that one of them she had spoke out, and she was shocked at how many people all of a sudden they were finding her on her Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere else, and just slamming her. See, we come up with these terms. The mob mentality does. It's not us. Of being racist, homophobic, all this stuff. And they do that to skirt the real issue is, and as far as I'm concerned, is the women earn their rights to have their own division for swimming. And the men have theirs. And as it was pointed out by the narrator, someone that wasn't that great a swimmer in the guys could, if put over with the girls, be one of the top swimmers in the U.S. Now, if you want to create a co-ed swimming group, knock yourself out. But I have issues with men that identify as something other than men, and I'm not homophobic, of taking part in a all women's event. It's not fair. You know, I don't care how you look at it. But I'm more concerned of this mob mentality. And the way you curb the mob mentality is that when you see a wrong, you stand up for a right. That's just who we are. I know what I have to say goes against a lot of what the younger generation, I shouldn't say younger generation, because to be totally honest with you, I think this mob mentality is a small segment. And they had nothing better to do than to be sheep and be told to go destroy this one or go destroy that one. And I've watched even the news, CBS, NBC, ABC, go right on the attack as well. Most people would look at who is the mob, but not me. I'm saying I know the mob is sheeps. They're trying to be bullies, but they're sheep. They're being told what to do. So I look to see who is telling them what to do. And just so that you know, I am a lifelong Democrat, right? But I'm seeing people within the government and within the Democratic Party orchestrating some of this. And a lot of it is being done by the Democratic people that are in power right now in government by not cracking down on it, by calling one a riot or an insurrection of people going into the chambers. But if you got a group that's burning a town to the ground and destroying personal property, stealing, that's different because they're just letting their feelings be known. Bullshit. Call a spade a spade. If it's against the law, the ones that were involved with what they called the insurrection, which I don't believe was an insurrection, and the only one that got killed in that was when a female that had been in the military, I believe the Air Force, was shot by a security guard through the door. And even today they say the gun might have went off non-intentional. But other than that, nobody died from it. And nobody... Was it right? No. Should people face the consequences for their actions? Absolutely. But you can't take one group and make them face the consequences. And what I've seen, it's totally blown out. That stupid 6 years for going inside the chamber. That's ridiculous. Trespassing, what have you. But if you're burning down a town and you're smash and grab and you're bullying people because of what they have to say, you are 10 times worse than anybody that was involved in that January 6th. 10 times. But our government comes up with excuses. And you're going to find, if you follow back far enough, that you're going to find these big tech companies in bed with this group. And you're also going to find like millionaires, billionaires like George Soros funding it. So the best way we can do this is tell our young people that they need to start standing up for these people that are being attacked by the mob mentality. When they see a wrong, make it a right. And I'm not talking physical confrontations, I'm just talking standing alongside a person that is in the right, but they're trying to destroy. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them doesn't matter. But we can all agree that they have the right to say what they want. And this leads back to many of us have had family members die protecting those rights. They didn't come easy. I mean, that's one of the first things the colonists did when they got over here and they started trying to create a government, because they did not want a dictatorship. They did not want to be told what to do all the time. And they wanted freedoms for we the people. And they wrote it in such a way, because what most people forget is that if you work for the government, in the government, you work for us. We pay your salaries. We pay you to do that job. But when they were drafting the Constitution, one of the reasons why they included the Second Amendment was they never wanted to have it get to a point again where one segment was trying to control another segment. So if the government became too powerful and tried being a dictator, all citizens had firearms, muskets, and they could rise up and overtake that government and get rid of it. So there was always that check and balance. And who's trying to get you to lose your Second Amendment rights? The government. Remember that. All right, so on that note, you guys have a great Saturday, and I'll see if I can't come up with something to do a Sunday sermon tomorrow. I'm going to I'll post one of the cow videos of me feeding them today sometime when I get down to the shop. And on that note, you guys have a great day.